So at a conference for heroes, why are we talking about freaks? Because heroes are freaks. Heroes stick out while everyone else fits in. Heroes see strength where everyone else sees weakness. So my thesis this morning is really simple. What makes us weird also makes us wonderful, and what makes us weak also makes us strong. First thing people want to know when they meet me, especially after Suzanne speaks, is how tall are you? The answer to that is I'm 6'6", but I'm 6'9" in heels. And one of the problems with growing up tall and growing up poor, I grew up in a trailer park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. One of the problems with growing up tall and growing up poor is you grow up faster than your family's ability to get you pants. So I always had high water pants or floods. They never made it all the way down to the floor. And the kids at school would tease me, and my mom felt bad. She wanted me to feel better, so she lied to me. She told me they were capri pants, and they were coming back in style. Turned out not to be true. I'm 6'6". My wife is just 5'3". If you wonder how that works, just realize that in our relationship, deodorant is much more important than breath mints. So I've always been different, but we live in a world that teaches us that what makes us weird makes us awful, and what makes us weak makes us wrong. Robert Quinn, in his book Deep Change, says deviance will always generate external pressures to conform. If you perform beyond the norms, the systems will adjust and try to make you normal. But the only way to be a hero is to be a freak, to be a deviant, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. When I was a kid, I was always in trouble at school for three things. I couldn't sit still, couldn't be quiet, couldn't do what I was told. Teachers didn't like me very much. They called me obnoxious, rebellious, inappropriate, immature, told me I had no self-discipline, no self-control, and if I didn't fix those things, I would end up homeless and living in a van down by the river. Sooner or later, they'd give up on me and send me to the principal's office. They sent me to the principal's office when I was in third grade. I was 8 years old. The principal sat me down on his lap, which seems questionable now looking back on it. And he told me there's three kinds of bad people in this world. Bad people, really bad people, and people who are too far gone. And he told me I was a really bad kid on the verge of being too far gone if I couldn't learn to sit still, be quiet, and do what I was told. And I'm not the only one who got in trouble at school. Ken Robinson says many highly talented, brilliant, creative people think they're not. We heard a story about that earlier with the kid who did skateboarding in all 50 states. Many highly talented, brilliant, creative people think they're not because the thing they were good at school wasn't valued or was actually stigmatized. And let's break that down. The thing they were good at, their strength, their uniqueness, wasn't valued. It was ignored or denied, or it was actually stigmatized. We told them that the best thing about them was actually the worst thing about them. We told them that one of their biggest strengths was actually a weakness. And I realized that's what happened to me. Because I get paid to do three things. I get paid to stand up, not to sit down. I get paid to talk, not to be quiet. And I get paid to run my own business, not to do what other people tell me to do. When I was a kid, my parents called me Motor Mouth, and it was a nickname designed to shame me into being quiet. Last year, I bought my parents a house with the money that I make as a public speaker. They don't call me Motor Mouth anymore. And when I realized that my biggest weaknesses were also strengths, I started wondering whether that was true for other people, and that's where this presentation came from. So I want you to see that every characteristic that we have is both a weakness and a strength at the same time. And the best illustration of that is my height. It's good to be tall. It's a strength. We pay tall people more than we pay smaller people for the same work. We think that taller people have higher IQs than they actually do. We tend to vote for the taller person in elections. Only 2 or 3 presidential elections in the history of the United States have we voted for the smaller person for president. So it's good to be tall until it's not. I fly a lot, and every flight I have starts at a small airport. So it starts on one of these small regional jets, like a Fisher-Price airplane. And so I get on the airplane the same way every time. The flight attendant sees me coming and says, "Sir, you should watch your head," which is hard to do if you've ever tried. And I get in the airplane like this, and I duck down, and some of you are like, "Whatever, Dave, we've ducked before." And you have, but you're used to re-emerging on the other side. I don't get to re-emerge. I just shuffle like a hobbit to my seat. But I fly a lot, and so I get decent seats. I get an exit row seat. I get a first-class seat. I get economy comfort. But sooner or later, I have to go to the bathroom. And if you don't fit in the tallest point of the plane, you certainly don't fit on the side of the plane where they put these bathrooms. And some people have accused me of exaggerating this next part, so I've actually taken the liberty of an airplane bathroom selfie. So I get into the bathroom and I close the door behind me because I certainly can't turn around to do it. And now I'm here, but the toilet is over there and I have things that need to go in the toilet. And so I try to move closer, but the ceiling goes like this. And so as I try to move closer, it just pushes my face closer and closer to the toilet, and that's not what I'm looking for. So I developed something that I call the limbo yoga approach. And what I do is I press my face into the ceiling, and then I try to match my upper body to the shape of the side of the airplane as I move the lower body in and rotate. But the problem is there's not a lot of visual information now about what's about to happen. And so I thought, hey, there's a mirror. Maybe I can get a reflection and kind of triangulate. It's like GPS. We can figure it out and do some targeting. And as I was looking in the mirror, I realized, wait a second, there's a sink right there. That is a whole lot higher and a whole lot closer. That is custom designed for what needs to happen here. And there's a moral to that story. It's this: I don't get to accept the advantages of my height, we talked about what they were, without also accepting what? The disadvantages of my height. Every characteristic is a strength and a weakness at the same time. And there's another way to look at that as well. Right? George Eliot said, every limit is a beginning as well as an ending. So I'll tell you about the beginnings that come with some of the limits that we have. Let's just take dyslexia. Dyslexia means you struggle to read and struggle to write, which means you'll struggle in school. And we've all been taught if you struggle in school, you'll struggle in life, which is why they were very surprised when they were studying millionaires in the United Kingdom and discovered that 50%, half of the millionaires in their study had dyslexia, even though only 10% of people in the general population have dyslexia. They were studying entrepreneurs in the United States and discovered that 35% of the entrepreneurs in their study, people who'd started their own business, had dyslexia, even though only 10% of people in the general population have dyslexia. Ingvar Kamprad, the billionaire founder of IKEA, has dyslexia. Richard Branson, the billionaire founder of the Virgin series of companies, has dyslexia. And they actually asked him, how has dyslexia affected your success? And he said, strangely, I think my dyslexia has helped. What scientists are starting to realize is that people with dyslexia don't have broken brains, they have different brains. And the same brain that causes them to struggle in school causes them to succeed in life at a higher level than most other people ever will. Paul Orfila got kicked out of 4 high schools and then was fired from family-owned businesses by his mom and dad and brothers and sisters because of his dyslexia and his ADHD. So he started his own company named Kinko's, and he recently sold it to FedEx for $2.4 billion. And he said this, he said, I think everyone should have dyslexia. He sees the strength so clearly that he doesn't want to give up the weakness that's related to it. He sees the advantage so clearly he doesn't want to give up the disadvantage. He understands the connection between strength and weakness. He understands that what makes us weird also makes us wonderful, and what makes us weak also makes us strong. And so one of the things we need to do to put this to work in our lives is we need to find the right fit. So when I was a kid, not only did my parents send me to school with capri pants, they sent me to school with patches on my pants, 4x6 iron-on patches. When I would get holes in my knees, they just patch up the pants. And so at age 12, I got a paper out delivering newspapers at 5 o'clock every morning so I could buy my own clothes. And one morning, I fell off my bike and I broke my left forearm in half to the point that my forearm came up at a 90-degree angle to the rest of my forearm. And they took me to the hospital, and they didn't want to do surgery because I was so young, so they put me in traction, and they repaired it manual, and they put me in a cast up to my shoulder for 3 months, and they took me out of the cast 3 months later, and I thought I was fine, and they thought I was fine. And 8 years later, I was in college, and I was trying to play the guitar, and my friend was trying to show me how to play the guitar, and I couldn't do it, so he thought I was stupid, and I thought I was stupid. And then we realized they put me back together wrong at the hospital when I was 12. You should be able to turn your hand over flat and put your palm up, and I can't do that with my left hand. They put me back together crooked, and I can't turn my hand over. And it was at that moment at age 20 that I realized why I had been struggling at the drive-thru for so many years. I thought everybody struggled at the drive-thru, but it turns out it was just me, because I can give them the money just fine. That's not a problem. But when they go to give me the change, all I've got is this, right? And they're like, sir, just turn your hand over. And I'm like, I know. They're like, no, but you also have to reach it out. My sister-in-law had a great idea for me. She said I should get a basket on a stick and just reach it in there. But it gets worse, because I was training for a marathon a couple years ago when I got hit by a truck that was going 50 miles an hour. And he hit me so hard in my left elbow that he sheared the bones off in my left elbow. So they screwed my arm back together, did extensive physical therapy, but I'll never be able to extend my left arm fully, the same arm that I can't turn over. And so I'm tall, yeah. But I'm tall in the sense that a Tyrannosaurus Rex is tall, right? I don't have the wingspan that you would expect from a person of my height. And so the first place I drove when I was in Australia, where they drive on the left-hand side of the road and the right-hand side of the car, was to a drive-through. Because I wanted to know what it felt like to reach my arm out fully and turn my hand over flat and accept the change like all of you have been taking for granted for years. And the reason that's important is because in Australia, I'm still disabled, I'm still broken, I still have weaknesses, I'm still not fixed, but I'm in a situation that puts the spotlight on what I have instead of putting the spotlight on what I don't have. I haven't changed the person, I've changed the place. I haven't changed who I am, I've changed where I am. Too often when things aren't working, we think we need to change ourselves when oftentimes we need to change the situation. Specialist Stern hires people with autism on purpose because they do software testing, which requires hyper-focus and doing the same thing over and over again. And people with autism have two symptoms, hyper-focus and doing the same thing over and over again. They don't change the person, they change the place. And they've been so successful that SAP, the global software giant, is currently looking for hundreds of people with autism from all over the world to create a disability that becomes a competitive advantage when you change the situation. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is broken, it's leaning. We can all see that. But in the 1930s, Mussolini decided that this was a scar on the reputation of Italy, and he ordered his government engineers to straighten it up, and they tried, and they failed. And that was a really lucky thing for the city of Pisa, because millions of people have traveled millions of miles and spent millions of dollars to see a tower that leans. And the people who run the tower now understand that, and they say because of its inclination, the tower has become the object of very special attention, and that's what I'm telling you. It's because of our inclinations, because of our uniqueness, because of our strengths and our weakness that our lives and our work becomes the object of very special attention. And so the people who run the tower now say it's important to keep the current tilt due to the vital role that this element played in promoting the tourism industry of Pisa. And that's what I'm telling you. In your life and in the lives of people around you, are we preserving the tilt? E.E. Cummings says, we do not believe in ourselves until someone reveals that deep inside of us something is valuable, worth listening to, worthy of our trust, sacred to our touch. What I think heroes do is they recognize this is true for themselves, that what people see as worthless in them is actually something tremendously valuable, but they're also a person who sees value in others where others don't see that same value, and they point out to other people that deep inside of them something is valuable, worth listening to, worthy of our trust, sacred to our touch. So the next time you're tempted to hide what's different about you, remember that what makes us weird also makes us wonderful, and what makes us weak also makes us strong. The next time you're tempted to criticize someone who's different, remember that what makes us weird also makes us wonderful, and what makes us weak also makes us strong. Heroes are freaks. Heroes stick out when everyone else fits in. Heroes see strength where everyone else sees weakness. Thank you very much.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.